Hey there, Internet. I thought it was a really smart idea to reveal all of the background information on my drug abuse in the past. So that's what I'm doing. Obviously, all of this information is alleged, but the topic I want to talk about today is what drugs I did the most as a poly addict that did all the drugs other than meth, which I can't speak for, but I've recognized is probably harder than anything other than like fentanyl, which maybe it's even harder than fentanyl. I don't know. I've seen lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of meth addicts just completely lose their soul, and there's plenty of fentanyl addicts that never do. So that's an interesting part of that. But anyways, the drugs that I did the most. So, the first drugs I did were prescribed to me as a kid um, because I had ADHD. I think initially I was prescribed Ritalin, but I could be wrong about that. But then I got on Adderall in like fourth or fifth grade, maybe younger than that, maybe like third grade. I was definitely in elementary school, so it couldn't have been middle school. Um, that's crazy. So I was like seven or some shit. And in middle school in sixth grade, I started like wanting to be cool. You know what I mean? Because you start hitting puberty or whatever, and you're like, oh my god, the cool kids. That's who I need to be right now. Um, and fucking the eighth graders in my class, because I was in this weird Montessori school that was public, and so people would just send their retarded children there. Um, they would drink lots of Kool-Aid, and I wanted to be cool and have some aid. So I fucking would put Adderall in there, or I just tried it once, and I noticed how fucking awesome it felt. I was like, oh my god, this is fucking sick. Uh, fucking, I'm locked in. I was a competitive soccer player at the time, and when I would fucking bring my Adderall water bottle to the function, I would fucking kick some extra ass. It really did. Like, when I took a lot of it, it would really fucking lock me in. And I took all of I didn't like it for the first couple of years I took it, and so my parents would let me stay off of it when I wasn't in school and on the weekends. So like I had a lot of it stashed up, and my parents would just keep it where it was available to me, so they didn't have to give it to me, because at the time I wasn't a kid with a drug problem, and the doctors told them this is what I needed. um, my parents were just believers in the pharmaceutical industry at the time, and the health industry at the time. They aren't now, and they're keen to that. But I think a lot of people fell for that. And also, Adderall was only approved in like 2007 or something, 2006, and so I was born in 2005. So if anything, it was kind of like they were experimenting on my generation of people with ADHD. But anyways, um, the first drug I ever got into was Adderall because of that reason. And when I went through withdrawal, that was the first suicide attempt I ever had, and it was almost in like a third person sort of haze, because I was going through withdrawal for the first time in my life, unconsciously. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I just was really fucking sad. Um, and yeah, I don't need to deep dive into that. But anyways, I've done a lot of Adderall. I would probably put that like at number like 6 on the list, maybe number 5. I didn't write a list beforehand, so we're just gonna have to come up with this on the fly. But the one I did the most was weed, and that's what I got into after benzos and Adderall. I was also prescribed Klonopin at one point for like anxiety disorder or something, and I abused that too when I was in freshman year of high school. Um, like when I was just getting into drugs, and I would sell them a lot too. So like I had a friend that was really into drugs, and I told him that I had these, and he was like, "Bro, I'll fucking pay you $10 a pill. Like, hit me up, dog." And so I was like, "Oh, fucking people like these. Like, I must like them too." Um, and yeah, that obviously that shit fucked me up. Weed was like my bread and butter. Even when I was on heroin and like deep into the depths of a Xanax addiction, I made sure I had weed before any of those drugs. Like, I never ran out of weed. I always had weed, at least. If not a bunch more other things, because I was an idiot and I sold a lot of things allegedly for a long time. But I always at least had weed. I never ran out of weed, and I would smoke it daily on a daily basis. I still smoke it every night, but I'm working on that currently. Um, I spent the last 7 years of my life high almost every single day that I could have. The last time I was sober before this week that I've been clean, other than at night from weed, uh, has was when I went to a fucking thing in Belize. I went to vacation in Belize for like a month and a half, and there were some times where I just couldn't get any weed there. Um, Other than that, dude, like seriously, I was really just seriously high every single day. Um, Now, when it comes to what my biggest demon was in drug addiction, it was Xanax. I probably did Xanax the second most out of all the drugs, even though I've done fucking fuckloads of other drugs. Um, I would use it as a tool. I was a full blown addict and I would take a lot at night before I went to bed, but I would use it as a tool during the day. I would take, if my tolerance was high, I would take one, you know. If my tolerance was low, I would take a half. I was really just using it to get through my day. And that's even more dangerous than using something recreationally or because your body is addicted to it. Um, I was psychologically addicted to it more than anything. And the thing about Xanax is if you become psychologically addicted to it, you also become physically dependent on it because you can't handle the world anymore without it. And you get to a point where, I remember it as this now, where I would just get, it's called a pharmapram seal. If you've ever done Xanax in California, you probably heard of these or seen them. Uh, it's just Mexican imported Xanax. They're 2 milligram bars. I remember I would buy one of those. There's like 90 of them in a seal, and I would black out for 2 weeks, and then I would have 10 left or whatever, and be so addicted to them that I knew if I stopped taking them, I would have a seizure and die. That's how dangerous Xanax can be. And I've been addicted to opioids. I've been addicted to Oxycontin, Dilaudid, fentanyl, heroin, all of that shit. Fentanyl I've only done like 3 or 4 times, but um, I've done very seriously hard drugs to wean off of, and Xanax was the worst out of all of them, and that was by far my worst demon. Um, I would say number 3 on the list. It's probably fucking 7-0, man, which is crazy because I've done so many opioids in the past before 7-0 even became a thing. And I guess you could generalize that as kratom because I was addicted to kratom before 7-0 ever became a thing. But once 7-0H became a thing, I was fucking on that shit for like a year and a half up until about a month ago. I really took so much 7-0. Sorry, my doggo Shane Haro. Nigga boy, huh? I would take it daily, use it very similarly to Xanax. Um, I only took heroin for about a month or something, but I was never as addicted to heroin as I was to 7-0. If anything, the withdrawal from 7-0 was worse for me when I got really deep into it, because I was on 7-0 for like 7 months or something at the longest point, like where I just never tried to get off of it. Um, 7-0 is extremely dangerous and should be banned everywhere. I get the incentive of it when it's related to fentanyl addicts and that it's almost as cheap as fentanyl is, and it provides the same effect that those users need, but it gets just as fucked up as fentanyl does almost. Lots and lots and lots and lots of people overdose on 7-OH. It's a really major problem right now, I would even go as far as say. But anyways, what's number 4 on the list? Shrooms. You know that stereotypical hippie guy that was like just so about the fucking pace and fucking doing the psychedelics, bro? That was me when I was like 14 to like 17 every single fucking day. I spent 2.5 months addicted to shrooms during the day and addicted to Xanax at night. I would only take shrooms during the day and I would be fine. If I didn't, I would go into psychosis and believe that there was somebody controlling my brain from like the inside, like a little ghost guy. Like I felt like I could feel that happening, and I couldn't ever get off of the shrooms. So I would literally be taking like 10 grams of penis Emmys in the morning when I got to like my worst point with that. Um, Now, that's a very rare thing to happen with shrooms, and I still recommend them to most people that, um, want that type of experience in their life. But I will say that if you are the type of kid that is obsessed with drugs right now, um, mushrooms aren't going to solve your problems, and they're not going to, like, fucking make you a very likable person either. If you do them, everything in moderation is okay, and especially mushrooms, if in moderation, can be extremely beneficial to your life, and that perception you get can be extremely beneficial, but it's not what it's chalked up to be. Mushrooms have a weird way of making people overly enthusiastic about the mushrooms themselves and their life afterwards. And I've seen very few people actually change their lives. They'll be motivated for like a month or something, and they'll completely forget whatever happened in their mushroom trip that made them that motivated. Um, Number 5 on the list has got to be Adderall. I've done so much Adderall, and I was never really super addicted to it because I do have ADHD. But if you take a lot of it, it still feels good, and you can still get. The way I would explain it when I was addicted to it is you can get a week worth of accomplishments done in a day, which means like I could get so much mundane shit like homework and writing or whatever bullshit like that, make a fucking like do the best RPG player of all time, like that is what Adderall did to you. To me, I speed ran when I was like really doing lots of Adderall because I just didn't have other drugs other than weed. I would fucking speed run Ratchet and Clank, like the original version of the game, and I got so ridiculously good at it that I was like in the top 20 at one point for that. And there's, thousands of retards that are also taking Adderall doing that. I was one of the worst ones. Let me get a little swiggy swig here. Reminder to drink some water, I guess. What's number 6 on the list? It's got to be acid. I probably have done acid somewhere around 200 times. Probably taken like 400 tabs or something like that. I've had lots of trips that were half doses. I've had some trips that were 5 tabs. I would recommend caution and moderation with acid more so than any other drug. I've really seen that shit turn people into schizophrenics, and that almost happened to me myself. If you haven't ever seen the worst trip of my life video on YouTube on this channel, that was an acid trip. That trip was maybe the scariest thing that ever happened to me. So yeah, like proceed with caution. It's very easy to get stuck in loops. It's very easy to like think that you're able to control it and like a master at it because you've had lots of trips under your belt or whatever, and it completely fucks you up because of that. Treat it with the utmost of respect. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, even though that would be is what I would recommend. The only psychedelics I think people should do is mescaline, not LSD, like I was saying, 2CB. That's what I meant. Mescaline, 2CB, um, mushrooms, DMT. Those ones are really cool, important, and I don't see it fuck people up as much. Not ayahuasca, just smoking DMT. Um, that can be really cool. Uh, yeah, I've had so many acid trips, and it used to be my favorite drug by a lot. Um, but if I could take back all of the good acid trips I had, where it was some of the best days of my life, to take away the two bad ones I've had. So think about that. I've taken it something like 200 times. So 1% of the time it was really bad. That 1%, man, it'll fuck you up. I tell you what. And that has a deep meaning to that. Um, uh, okay, what's number seven? I kind of want to say codeine. It was either codeine or Dilaudid. Those are the next two on the list, and those went hand in hand with each other. So did oxys, though I very rarely got oxys because they are a commodity in today's day and age. Um, I did way too many of those. Um, Codeine is the biggest waste of money ever, but it's also the best money you can ever make if you sell drugs. Like if you just get like 5 pints and flip that shit, like selling people lines, selling people deuces, whatever, because people are fucking idiots and they'll do that. It's literally so much profit, dude. You literally make like thousands of dollars really quickly. And so, I like to sell lean because it made a lot of money. And I like drinking it. Lean makes you more constipated than any other opioid. That shit will fuck up your guts, bro. Um, Beyond that, it's just not that fucking awesome and it's really expensive. Something that cost me $50 a geek is not worth it at all. You know what I'm saying? And if you really get into opioid addiction, like lean won't even hit that much unless you drink like a fucking sixth, and that'll make your stomach hurt. Like it doesn't matter how diluted and how much soda you drink. It's either the sugar or the lean is gonna fuck up your stomach if you actually do opioids and actually drink lean. I don't understand how those addicts that drink a pint every day fucking function, because I would just literally throw up all day. That's what would happen to me. Um, Dilaudid, I like to snort. Most addicts that do Dilaudid like to shoot it because apparently it's way stronger when you do it that way. But when I did it Dilaudid, I was really young. I was maybe like 14 or 15. It was like one of the first hard drugs I ever got into. And I highly recommend staying away from that shit. I would put Dilaudid on the same level as 7-OH, and that it's like stronger than everything other than heroin and fentanyl. Um, I would just throw up. Speaking of throwing up all the time, Dilaudid really makes you nauseous for some reason, or me nauseous for some reason, more so than other opioids, even though it's so strong. And so I would like just throw up all the time, and it was no big deal. I think I like literally had bulimia when I was on Dilaudid because I couldn't keep any food down in my stomach. I would just drink Sprite and eat saltine crackers all the time, and that was my life. And snort 2 milligram Dilaudid pills that I had stolen from my grandma. I remember one time I got invited to this party in my family where it was like one of my older cousins running it. I was pretending to be gay at the time because I found a lot of community for that. I live in Northern California. Um, and yeah, so I was in the depths of Dilaudid addiction and trying to hide that from everybody. And I remember like snorting like a little bit of it in the back of this bitch's car and then being like, I'm gonna throw up right now. You need to pull over. And she's like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, do you need me to take you back? And I was like, yeah. Because at that point I was thinking, damn, it's gonna be really hard to keep snorting all these pills. Um, Beyond that, what I would say Valium was the next in line. The thing that was dangerous to me with Valium was that it was way more controllable than Xanax was. You could take like four of those fuckers and still function throughout the day and remember some things. Like, you might not remember your whole day, but it wasn't like if you took two Xanny bars and just woke up the next day like, what the fuck happened, you know? And but it did provide the same thing that I needed from microdosing Xanax every day when I was a Xanax addict. And so um, I definitely did Valium all the time. I've done Valium more recently than any other like drug I would consider hard other than 7-OH. And it can be useful when you're taking a drug like 2CB or MDMA to take only like 5 milligrams of Valium, just to know that you're not going to have a seizure or muscle spasms or shit like that, because it really is genuinely useful for that. It keeps your body under control. Valium is extremely useful when you're taking psychedelics, but it's also extremely dangerous because it's a really good excuse to keep a couple Valiums. It's one of the only benzos that absorbs through water, and so you can put it under your tongue and it'll hit quicker. People use Xanax as a trip killer, and it doesn't kill your trip. It does calm you down, but it takes like 50 minutes to kick in. And so during those 50 minutes, people will be freaking the fuck out. But if you just put a little half val under your tongue, wait 5 minutes, you'll be chilling. So that's a really good thing about Valium. But I was definitely addicted. If you mix it with alcohol, it's very similar to mixing Xanax with alcohol. It just makes it a different drug and a way stronger drug. Um, and I got to a point where I was like maybe 2 or 3 months deep into mixing Valiums with the Xanax. And I was also doing a lot of cocaine at the time because I was in college. Um, that I fucking like, I couldn't sleep without it, and I had to get Librium and gabapentin to wean off of it, um, and that was very difficult. Even though Valium is nowhere near as strong as Xanax and nowhere near the same demon, it is dangerous in and of itself because of that. It's kind of like um, weed, and that it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to completely fuck up my entire life if I just do this every day unless I mix it with alcohol. And so you're fucking like, you think that you can control it, but you can't. Um, the next in line, this is probably the last one I'll do: ketamine. I've done so much ketamine for whatever reason. Ketamine is actually, I've probably done it more than, nah, I really haven't, but I've done a lot of ketamine too. um, it's funny to say that. Uh, I was never a fan. I was never like fiending for ketamine. But when I was on Xanax, in a Xanax bender, or I was staying off of other drugs, but ketamine felt like it was something that I could do because it wasn't that dangerous for me. Even though it fucked up my bladder for years, I still have bladder problems because of the night I mixed ketamine, alcohol, and Xanax. Um, the next day I just couldn't piss anymore, like properly. I have to pee like a girl sometimes still if I've been like drinking or something. Um, if I don't treat my bladder well anymore, I will have trouble pissing now because of ketamine. Anyways, I've had some really cool experiences on ketamine. I owe ketamine my life for getting off of Xanax because it created a delusional state for those days that I was doing ketamine instead of doing Xanax, where I was like thinking that I didn't need the Xanax anymore. I was like, I don't need Xanax anymore, which was a delusional thing to think because I fucking had a seizure and almost died. But that state induced a discipline within me that that eventually led to me getting off of Xanax. Um, it it's it can be a weird drug. I've seen it being really addictive for certain types of addicts. I was not that type of addict. I don't like things to be silly. Um, You know, it's fun sometimes, but I don't want my entire life to just be like laughing at a fucking nail post. You know what I mean? Um, you know, I had some really good times on it and some really bad times. I've K-holed a couple times, and those were some of the most intense trips I've ever had in my life. And it's really easy to do. People don't realize when you first get into it and you're just doing bumps, and then you start leveling it up just a little bit. And all of a sudden, you're literally gripping the ground that is falling because you think you're trying to like keep the universe from spinning. It's very interesting. Uh, I've done too much ketamine. I would black out a lot. Ketamine I found just randomly laying around more than any other drug, because when I was on Xanax, I would be like, we gotta do some ketamine. And I would go buy some ketamine or get some ketamine, whatever. And then I would lose it because I was in a Xanax bender, and then I was on also ketamine. And so like I have so many memories of like looking for pills or whatever because I was fiending and finding a bag of ketamine and being like, oh fuck, okay, at least I got this, you know. Um, but yeah, this is another video. This is a bit much longer one. I just wanted to record something like this today as well, because I haven't done any videos in a long time, and I noticed that some random people actually have started tapping into this channel, which I think is really cool. Um, so yeah, you know, leave a like or whatever. I appreciate you tapping in, and hope my experience as an addict can like give people insight that will help them still stay safe, at least. Bye.